Bobby Hemmitt. We're back here at the Hall of Maat, waiting on CP time for the gathering to start, you know. And we know that CP time is all over the country. If we say 3, we mean 4. Or if you mean 4, you better say 3. Or if you mean 3, you better say 2. And like I said, when I was in Philadelphia, we said 2. They got there at 6. I don't know. I guess that's because they were the Philadelphia Negroes, which is indentured servants. So they wasn't on the, some of them wasn't on the slave time, like like the rest of us. So, you know, I guess there was some of the Moors also, too. So they got there at 6. So they were still entrenched in African time. But then again, that's the way it is in Africa. And that's the way it is in most tropical countries. And civilization, you know, they get there when the people get there. So, and I guess that is a reason why we don't do too well in this linear time, you know. And excuse me, all the cities, they have problems. So talk radio. Another thing is space. They are applying pressure to people who have certain buildings that are taking government subsidies. They are now telling them that they don't have the right to operate with anything alternative other than what the government is saying. So now you have space as a problem. All in New York, everywhere I go around the country, people are having problems with space. It started back in '95 when they kicked UAM, that's the United African Movement, out of a place called the Slave Theater in Brooklyn, New York. And they had to bounce around for 2 years until they found a space that they can have into the point where they weren't vulnerable. And I think it's trickled down here to Atlanta. I've been speaking for 10 years now. It will be 10 years in June. And for the first time in November, they told me I couldn't speak at the Afrocentric Temple because of, in so many words, 501c3, which is tax exempt. So therefore, nonprofit organizations, I guess the government is saying, you've taken our money, so you can't be hobnobbing with the enemy. So anyway, it's just a matter of space, and just a matter also with greed with our own people sometimes, charging so much money. That's another thing. So now we blessed, if there's such a word, to have the brother Pierre, and he just produced this Hall of Maat. And the Hall of Maat is here. Also giving you another side of Atlanta, because the West End, you know, we kind of did that to death. So the Hall of Maat is come forth so we can continue to struggle and also provide facilities for other people to do things. So get used to this for you in the audience and the people in TV land. Now, to give a little aspect on Maat, I'm going to give a general synopsis on Maat coming from classical writers, and then I'll give you my own version of that. And then we'll introduce the speaker, and also we'll go through the calendar. The classical sources say, without this African goddess, the whole process of creation and constant renewal would have been meaningless. She symbolized the laws of existence, the law, truth, and the worlds of order. Judges were thought to be priests of Maat. She is depicted with an outstretched wings as a gesture of protection. And also, the cyclical nature of life would have been impossible without her. She was the food and the drink to Ra. She is represented wearing a ostrich feather, which comes to be the symbol, which comes to be a symbol of truth. Now, in so many words, your scales that you would have in the scales that you would also have in your justice system here, your whole entire court, any type of ballots, and you have the rod, the staff, the scale, anything that's dealing with also double numbers represents Maat. To take this a little further, Maat Ma'at not only means balance as far as law and the physical proceedings of life, but it also has something to do with the balance of equilibrium into the spirit and the physical, but also it's also the coming together of a spiritual process that balances out where man rises from the animal level of the physical person to the spiritual God and goddesses. And as you will see, the brother C. Freeman always quotes, down here it's about becoming God. Anything else, you're just wasting time. And that is the true process of the mysteries. There's several other things that came out of the mysteries as a byproduct, but the ultimate aim of the mysteries of Africa was to get back to gods and goddesses, or the divine deity. And that is one of the synopsis of what the mysteries is all about. The other thing here is Ma'at represents on the esoteric level when the process of the God making, where all the forces come together with some form of hard work, meditation, some type of epiphany, or some type of metamorphosis. When all of that comes together, that's represented as Ma'at. In alchemy, it's represented as the great work. They have several names. You see what I'm saying? In so many words, it's represented as the Christ, or Christos, crystallizing. It's represented as Achet, which means unity. The pyramid, it has so many names and so many words, metamorphosis, transformation. The end result is that of Ma'at. Is that of Ma'at. The word Ma'at is also the word Met. You get the word Met is another name for Ma'at. The word Ma'at is a twofold word. You get Ma, M-A, which means mother, and At, which means Atan, also means the son. So it's a double thing, a male and female entity balancing out also. But we're talking above the physical. Then we're talking about the balancing of the both right and left brain, masculine, feminine, which goes back to the divine feminine, Mother Zudakaias, or the great mother. Now, a few other things at the Hall of Maat. Number one, we want to put on the tape is at 4187 Snap Franger Woods Drive in Decatur, Georgia. The number is 678-570-0736. Now, if you live in Atlanta, basically, for the people out in TV land, when you get this, is you take 20 west?
East.
20 east to Wesley Chapel. You make a left on Wesley Chapel and just find the $3 cafe. And directly behind the $3 cafe, you'll find another little strip mall. And basically, look for the Hall of Maat. So this is, we want to clarify this for the people out there in TV land. But on Sundays, we'll be having Brother C. Freeman, and we will adjust our CP time on this the next time so we can, see what we can do. From 3 p.m. to 5, which I'll give a little brief introduction of Brother C. Freeman also, teaching on Moorish science. And it's going to be a 12-week course. I don't know how many. And so on Wednesdays, we will have Sister Myra. She's an astrologer and a spiritual consultant, speaking from 7 p.m. to 8:30. That's on Wednesdays. On Saturdays, if to be announced, I will be speaking, doing my lecture thing, whatever. And for those people that don't know me and all, I'm quite infamous. With no scruples. So be warned. Okay. And then we have Umrani Ani, who is the president of ASCAC, will be the guest speaker on some coming Saturdays, right? And also coming soon, we got Dr. Timothy Moore. He wrote a book called The Science of Melanin. He's is he still at Morehouse? Is he still at Morehouse?
No, Georgia State.
Georgia State. He used to be at Morehouse. Dr. Timothy Moore, who wrote a book called The Science of Melanin. He'll be coming soon, as well as Oscar Kwesi, the great lecturer that deals with the historical origins of Christianity. He'll be dealing with the Black Christ, Judaism, and Christianity. 2 lectures on the stolen religions of Africa, and that is coming soon too. So just keep just keep on the lookout. Also to get further information and also my tapes, as well as a host of other things, is you need to get in touch with online as well as a mail order company by the name of Arkansas. The number is 404-344-6862. Ask for Sister Deborah and Wesley Morris, and to get plugged on into the whole online and mail order, and you pick up locally to get plugged in on that particular aspect, the Arkansas. But also on online is www.siriustimes.com. That's SIRUIS. Sirius, the Star Sirius. SiriusTimes.com. Also. Now, I want to give a brief introduction to Brother C. Freeman. C. Freeman has been teaching in the community for quite some years. I know I first met him in the fall of 92, the end of 92, and at the first of 1993, started taking meditation classes and Moorish science classes, and was one of the first students that came to cultural communication and took his class and all. But although he had done educated previous people prior to that. But as far as I think that the general community on a larger scale in Atlanta and abroad started knowing about him when we tapped this thing off in the early 90s, in 1993. In 1993. So he is actually a pioneer as well. He is actually a pioneer in making people aware of giving the people the awareness of the esoteric sciences. And what we want to say is that because in the latter part of the 1980s, we had a resurgence of African knowledge. Basically, history. The history that linked our origins back to ancient Hemmitt and ancient Egypt, ancient Africa, more so than the first. We had several of these particular Renaissance periods. The one prior to that was the late 60s, early 70s, where we got into more of the Swahili, West African, and still on more of a liberation type front aspect, where we had different, and even the African clothes came. But we didn't tap back into the ancient science, and although we had several Renaissance periods, you see in the 20s, and then you had your whole, in the 30s you had Noble Ali, you had Elijah Muhammad. We always had these Renaissance periods where black people went to sleep and woke up. But this time, when we woke up, we were talking about ancient primordial history. But most of the people, the first wave were historians. So they talked about the history, then they talked about the mystery, but the historians were not mystery teachers. And so people were asking, what is the mystery? What is the mystery? At this particular time, I had gone through the whole historical thing, and I was just starting my journey into teaching the mystery system when I started, will be 10 years in June of this year. I started in 92, and right at that particular time, right after I had done like 2 or 3 lectures, C. Freeman came out of the veil that had been teaching this stuff for years prior. The key here is the mystery started rolling around, and to this day, we only have a few people that even deal with the esoteric sciences as far as from, we didn't have the amount of speakers that dealt with the esoteric sciences of this particular information as we did the historians. Now, the key here is, the problem is nobody knew what the mystery was. And what we didn't realize that the Europeans, about 130 years, had usurped the mysteries of going into Kemet and also having a conserved and preserved all of the history left behind by the Moors in Spain, and they renamed it the New Age, or the occult teachings of the esoteric teachings. And so what we didn't know, most of the people were saying, what is the mystery? And the historians were basically dumbfounded in the aspect that they really couldn't tell about the mystery. They were saying that the mystery was the 7 liberal arts and basically whatever they got from George G.M. James' book, Stolen Legacy. But the Europeans had already usurped this particular information about 140 years prior in a Renaissance period, let's say the late 19th century, but had preserved this particular information from the University of Salamanca, the 16 other universities that took place in 700 years of history of the actual Moors teaching the Europeans. They preserved that particular information and called it the New Age. So that was the mystery. And so as a result, we came in, and the last 10 years has been built on basically fusing the Afrocentric history back into the New Age and reconstituting it back into black, where we know it came from. You see, that was one of the phases. And this man, C. Freeman was a pioneer in doing that. And although we're going around 10 years of this particular movement, it's still considered a small movement compared to the whole historical thing. But that's good, because in any mystery system, the mystical side is always an underground movement or a secret movement. So everything lines up the way it's supposed to. Separate the chumps from the monks. Many are called, but few are chosen. And so, in so many words, I don't want to take up any more time. The brother C. Freeman is a master teacher on multiple levels. When we say Moorish science, we're not just categorizing this into the sect of Moors where you have just the noble Drew Ali perspective, although that is one that needs to be cataloged as a great movement and a significant movement in the Western black drive to knowledge. You see what I'm saying? That's overshadowed a lot of times by the Nation of Islam and the whole Elijah Muhammad thing. But then again, on the other hand, it has now become to the point where it's surviving the Nation of Islam, because the Moorish aspect was never, if you want to put it, prostituted in the aspect where you would have this national phenomenon that everybody know about the Nation of Islam, because it was one that was on the border or on the periphery. What you have is something that is much more cohesive when we deal with the Moorish science. That's just that particular aspect. Then we go back to the Moors in Spain, and the Moors back to the Moria, the whole. I'll let him explain all this, but I want to say these lectures are not necessarily just based on a particular sectarian form of teaching. Moorish science just means basically the ancient arcane science of the ancient people that first seeded this planet, in so many words. Lords of the earth. So, to not take up any more of your time, I want to introduce to you and give a black hand to Brother C. Freeman L.
Thank you, brother. I think it would be appropriate to take a look at the concept more before we look at the science in terms of two vital areas. One is history, the other, of course, is identity. In terms of cultural negligence in America, the history that we received in the classroom, and that's from kindergarten to college, was a prescribed history. The intent was to bring the American colored man nearer to his European master. To maintain a level of subserviency. Now, this concept of subserviency does not necessarily mean bound by chains. It also means job. The idea that clearly states that is that if you have a job for 20 years and your boss buys 6 houses in 20 years and you still got an apartment, you're serving. Okay. You see, and pretty much of this input of human labor that the dark-skinned, broad-nosed, thick-lipped, and furrowed-haired human being in America contributed to American success has been on a subserving level. So we became educated, trained to serve. So history became a tool to enhance that ordeal, that proposal, that program, that project. See? In terms of looking back at our contemporary parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, see? Except for that few exceptions that were able to claim their own, start their own business, and get a grip on their lives and take it in the direction in which they wanted. The masses of black Americans were miseducated. See? A concept coined by Carter Woodson in the 30s, you know, the miseducation of the Negro. A very clear concept. And at the time that he wrote it, he was so far ahead of his time that it became relevant about 10 years ago at Spelman College when, what's the sister's name, became president and gave that book to all of the freshman women at Spelman College. And it was a revelation for them. You know, it wasn't old news. You see, it was something new to come to this realization that black folks in this country had been deliberately and calculatively duped about one of the most serious aspects of human life, and that is the aspect of identity. See? Of being miseducated is the same idea of being misdirected. For instance, the stores are up here. I'm walking up the street there, and this brother comes along and says, "Brother, where's the supermarket?" I said, "Down there." And like a brother did me, over on Ashby. I'm glad I thought of that. I had walked from West End to Ashby trying to find I can't even think of the brother's name now that has the old Muslim temple over there on Ashby. His name will pop back in my mind. And I came up to this Muslim brother selling papers. I said, "Brother, where is so-and-so building?" He said, "Back up that way." And I was a half a block from the place. You know? This is a black man, you know. You know? That's misdirection and miseducation. See? Now that's one, multiply that times 20 million, 30 million, 40 million people. If you wonder why our parents didn't get anything done, see? They weren't doing their revelation, their vision, their insight. They were doing the European American's business, his vision, how to get him rich, how to use the labor. Why I'm making these statements is to give emphasis on the importance of knowing who you are, what you are, and where you are. These are the three missing keys to the center of Afro-American, Negro-American, colored American, African-American culture. This is what's been missing. In all of the books that you have read and are in the bookstores, these three keys do not sit at the center of all of those books. Okay? And that includes the concept of Africa, the concept of Ethiopian,
the concept of black man, the concept of Afro-American. Those are all concepts of miseducation. As harsh as that may sound. For one reason, they did not define them. See? I remember I met this brother, and you all know this brother. His name is Professor White. I ran into him on the 5th floor in the Atlanta Public Library, and he was teaching a couple of brothers up there about the mounds and the pyramids and so forth. And I forget how I got into conversation. It was some misuse of the term Africa or African. And I just butted in and said, well, brother, what does the concept African mean? And he paused for this long period of minutes, you know. And my intent was not to deliberately embarrass him, but it was just because he was being so didactic, so insistent that he was right, and only what he said was the truth. And that bothers me from anybody. Hell, I'll get up and say something to the preacher if I think he's doing that. Because I'm Sagittarius. And he paused, and you could, when your eyes dart left, right, left, right, left, right, you're searching in your memory banks for either the answer or some fill-in, and that's what he was doing. And he came up with something so far off the wall that I wouldn't even dignify it. I said, no, that is not what it means. Well, what does it mean anyway? I said, I'm not going to tell you because you didn't admit that you didn't know. So I left him hanging there, you know. But it dawned on me in the mid-'70s that I did not know what the word Africa meant. I mean, it just came to me. You know, read since '66, I've been reading books on Africa. And it never even came to my mind during that time to ask that this word had a meaning, or to think that it had a meaning. So I went to the dictionary. I went to the word Africa. It's not in there. Until I got to map. And there's this map called Africa. That's the definition it gives in the dictionary. Really interesting. See? And it was, I mean, a yearning thing. And this is one of the interesting things about self-knowledge, the universe, and you and your will. If you yearn for your truth, you will attract it. You will draw it by book, by person, by lecture, by letter, by dream, by vision, by revelation. You will draw it to you. That's how powerful you are as a being in this universe. Because you are a replica of this universe. See? The universe owes you your identity. It is a part of your natural inheritance. See? And it belongs up here. I'm pointing to the prefrontal lobes, not back here, because that's where it is. Where you can't go reach it and get it at any given time, except on those quick flashes where something releases an idea, a picture, a recall that makes you think. It makes you ask the question, well, who am I? What am I? Jet Magazine published a statement about a brother in '66 when they were doing black art conferences around the country, the first period of that time. And this one university professor, a Negro colored fellow, got up and ran out of the conference room screaming, "I'm not black, I'm not black." You know, this is a grown man, a teacher, was terrified and horrified by the idea of being called a black man. See, that's how deflated the ego and the psyche of our people were. That was an extreme, but it certainly was indicative of the real problem of the lack of, the absence of identity, you see. And from '66 to '71, no one dealt clearly with that until Yosef ben Yakanab published Black Man in the Nile. That's the beginning of the new cultural renaissance, if you want to know who to attribute it to. But he was standing, of course, on many men's shoulders, including his teacher, George M. James. But he's standing essentially on J.A. Rogers. Can't hear me? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Standing essentially on the shoulders of J.A. Rogers, who's the author of about 9 different books. And this is the particular one that brings that revelation straight home. And this book has been around since 1954. And it still has not gotten to the classroom of any public high school, college, junior high school, grade school, YMCA school. See? I got it. You can't see it from back there, but I'm going to let you see it. Don't try to read the whole thing. I just want you to see the title. Just read the title and pass it across and pass it back. I want everyone to take a look at that. There's a psychology structure in the human brain that allows behavior to take a leap forward when it's properly orientated. It is neutral in terms of the law of polarity concerning success and failure. We are by nature in need of conditioning or programming. Of course, we refer to the concept of being brainwashed. But brainwashed is not a valid term. It's really conditioning. You can be conditioned to fail, or you can be conditioned to succeed. But it's a conditioning. The proper, of course, is to be conditioned to succeed. And involved in that success plan and plot is knowing who you are. It's a part of your psychology that gets correct behavior, correct response. See? We have the example of the child who becomes a problem from the parental point of view because the child doesn't seem to want to do what the parents say. Until you call the child by a positive. Come here, sweetie. Come here, honey. Come here, baby. Come here, sugar. Come here. And the baby smiles and gets up and comes, you see. But as soon as you balk, scream, and shout, you shut down the child's inner structures, the faculties that allows proper behavior. You see? It's the same idea if you call your child every day, and some mothers do this, believe it or not, and it should be in Wrigley's, believe it or not. Come in, nigga, to a child. I mean, I'm not talking 50 years ago. I'm talking about yesterday, you know. If we want to know what the problem is in terms of all of this negative behavior we still see, of course, it's not as worse as it was 10 years ago when it wasn't even talk, it was shoot, you know. Misnomer, being misnamed, and miseducated, misdirected. So we're trying to still find this piece that's missing in our psychological mechanisms that allows right behavior, successful behavior, achieving behavior, unfolding behavior. Where has it been all of these years? A, hidden. Where? In the Masonic order. In esoteric schools of thought. In literatures that never got to the places our parents were going to buy things. Because in 1955, there was probably no such thing as an African-American bookstore. That's a recent invention of approximately 30, 35 years, you see, where a large segment of relevant books put in one place. See? In the Masonic Order, you take an oath not to tell what you learn. See? So it closes at that door. Noble Drew Ali's group started around 1922, where he and his followers, a little handful of people, began dealing with the concept of nationality as a movement in terms of the Holy Moorish Science Temple of America, what he founded, and brought forward this partial explanation of identity as a nationality. See? And the concept that deals with your psychology is this concept. Can you see that back there? Okay. Your ethnic identity. See, because nationality-wise, we're all Americans. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. You're a citizen of America. The ethnic identity deals with your blood, your brain, and the stuff in your blood, your genetic code that keeps making dark skin, broad nose, thick lips, and furrowed hair, wherever mama is on the planet. That's the key to your ethnicity. The other concept is eponymy, the eponymistic state. You'll find, I don't think I'll do that, go to the dictionary. It's in the dictionary, a very important word that shows that if the father takes a wife, impregnates his wife, moves to a certain land or property, gives his wife his name, and gives his child his name, and gives his land his name. That's the eponymistic state of existence. The name that you will find that relates to that is this name. Okay. Can you read that? That's the way Yochanan wrote it, Misraim. Misraim in the Bible. I think this is MZR, if I'm not mistaken. The first clear evidence of that is Misraim. The one that begins the handle of that is this man's name. Ham, whose name is not Ham, but is Cam, whose name is not Cam, but is which is pronounced in most literatures as Hammurabi. This is three names. Hammurabi. Black fire, Lord of the earth, master teacher, Hammurabi, or Hammurabi, which is referred to as the lawgiver. Then Bobby mentioned this, that we don't have that much proof of in terms of historical fact, because we're talking a past that is legend more than it is artifice. See, what verifies the past is the artifice found by those who search the soil, the earth, to find the evidence of a past. Hammurabi, Lemuria, and Mitzrayim are the major keys in terms of research. This is considered to be a Hebrew name, So what one should do is retranslate it back to where it comes from rather than what it's translated into. We know if they were Africans, they didn't have Hebrew names, or at least we should know that much. But first we need to know what Hebrew is and what it means before we even do that. In the American English Dictionary, right after the word black elder, you will find the word blackamoor in this book. It's been there. It's been there since Noah Daniel Webster structured this English American dictionary. He's not the author of the original English dictionary. That's Edward Johnson of England. Remember that this is an English language we speak, which means it's a Latin language we speak. I won't spend the time paging through that, but just keep in mind in terms of evidence written, you'll find the concept blackamoor. Then you'll find the concept Moor. And it's interesting to read both of those. Moor is given in the dictionary as anyone living in North Africa. I bought a 1958 Funk and Wagnall dictionary at Goodwill in the West End for 25 cents. And the reason I bought it because I turned right to the B's and looked up blackamoor. And it said, Negro, dark skin, black person. And then in parentheses, a word no longer used. Blew me away, blew me away. So the evidence is available but scattered. It's not in one place. No one intended for it to be in one place. If you wonder why it has taken so long to even come to this point of having a level of insight to this clarity of identity. To know what it means is to give, again, to give back the prestige to your thinking. When you can think with the idea of being Lord of the earth. You see? A concept that we don't fully cognize, you know, from this subservient level in which we've been operating. See? But to raise a child who senses as well as consciously knows that he is by his nature named Lord of the earth is to give a new psychology to a human being, which means you're making another kind of human being who thinks from his highest or her highest vantage point in her or his nature. That's its other plus, its other benefit. You change psychologies when a child knows who he or she is and can think from that vantage point. If they're not thinking from that vantage point, they're inflicted with the illusion of inferiority as a complex. See? Anytime you think less of yourself, it is indicative of a complex. And what I like about the concept illusion is that exactly what it is and what it was meant to be was to create the illusion of being inferior. You see? And it worked. They created the illusion. They created the Negro in America. You see, that's why a Negro has no rights. He has no past. He has no accomplishments. He's achieved absolutely nothing. It was the Moor who achieved, who has the past. The book that lends strength to that concept is this book, The Golden Age of the Moor. There has been another book to outdo it, so I don't have another one plus this one. This is it. The golden age of the Moors. Everybody in our group should have it somewhere within their reach. It's that valuable. There are a few loose ends that Dr. Van Sertima did not tie up, but he certainly did an excellent job in compiling a group of essays concerning this record of the past, not his story. See? That's what's in the back of your subconscious, the records of your past. That's what we're looking for in terms of accomplishments, achievements, successes, pronouncements, inventions, creativity. See? The gathered wealth of the past. See? Your ability to lay the foundation of governorship in the land, to structure a civilization to live by and to give forward to the next generation. Those are the records of the past. And at the center of that is self, the center of knowledge on this planet is about self. Not Jesus, not Muhammad, not Buddha. Okay? It is about you. How do I know that? First by study and then by a statement. This book is not about Jesus. It is not about Jehovah. This book is about you. See? And it's found in this concept, which is emphasized in separating the two books. Testament. Is that spelled right? Or should this be T-I? Is that right? Okay, all right. It looked a little strange up there, writing it so large. This is the Latin. That's where this word comes from. Testimenti. Testi, body, or testicles. Okay? Menti, mind. Old body, old mind. New body, new mind. That's what this book is about. Okay? But on top of it, on the surface, is this doctrine that the theologians scraped off to present to the believer. Not to the knower, not to the seeker of truth and knowledge, but to the knower. The system is based upon this number. Where do you first meet this number? Anybody? The most constant place you see this number is where? No, before you get there. Where? Before you get there. Where, before you get there. It's got to be the clock. The constant. 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. You see? The measurement of the moving of time in space and circumstances. There are 66 books to the Protestants' scripture. This is the Protestant Bible. This is not the first Bible. Okay. How many sons does Jacob have? How many disciples did Jesus have? How many stars are there in the heavens? Tricked you there, didn't I? There are only 12 in this book. The heaven in this book is not the same one up there. though they're up there, but in this book it's 12. See? There are 12 gates. There are 12 pearls. I mean, the 12 goes on and on and on to set a standard. And it doesn't start off in the deep part of this book. The Kabbalistic writers got busy on chapter 1. Verse 14, and the evening and the morning were the first day, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. What is that? No, it's not. Can't be astrology, because it's not a calculation yet. It's got to be what? It's got to be astronomy. Yes. The presentation of the heavens as the measuring device for the activities on this planet. That is in chapter 1 of the book of Genesis. How many Christians you think know that? You can count them on one finger, not one hand. Yeah? Because they're not in pursuit of knowledge. Which means that they're not in pursuit of self-knowledge. One of the most important theorems of the Kemetic culture was, man, know thyself, and you will know the gods. Then be true to yourself. It's right here in this book. Man, know thyself, and to thine own self be true. It should be on the head post of every church that black folks walk through. And you won't find it on none of them. Because they're not going in there to get self-knowledge. They're going in to hear about Jesus. And they've been hearing the same group of sermons for over 100 years. The same sermons. Over and over. You know, it's amazing how ignorance prevails. It is amazing. And they got this book stuck under their arm. Chock full, based on Moorish science. The reason we know that, because it's based on the Kabbalistic system of writing. And that is a Moorish invention. How do we know that? Because of the circle. Who measured the circle first? Your parents. Measured out the 12. Gave them 12 names. The 12 names of those signs are translated into 12 sons in this book. They're called the sons of Jacob. Those are the 12 signs of the zodiac. That is not astrology. That's zodiac science. That's the square zodiac before you get to the round zodiac. What I'm emphasizing here is not only the importance of self-knowledge, is that somebody knew it was important, put it in a book, and gave it to you, and didn't tell you it was in there. That's the easiest way to hide it, is just hand it to you. Yeah. John chapter 10, verses 31 to 36. Is the central theme of all knowledge on planet Earth. I don't see nobody writing that down. Unless you already know. If you already know, that's fine. But I like to see pencils get busy when I mention that one if you don't know about it. 31 to 36.
The basis of what?
All knowledge on this planet. Whichever one you all want to read that. John chapter 10, verses 31 to 36. Read it out loud so they can hear you, my sister. Don't be embarrassed. You're among friends. Verse 31.
Chapter 10, verse 31.
Yes, beginning of chapter 10. chapter 10, verses 31 to 36. I thought I handed it to you. I got it marked there. Right, start reading.
Then the Jews took up stones again to stone him. Jesus answered them, "Many good works have I shewed you from my Father. For which of those do ye stone me?" The Jews answered him, saying, "For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God." Jesus answered them, "Is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods?"
Stop. Read that again.
Jesus answered them, "Is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods?"
Go on.
If he called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken.
Okay, that's good.
Say,
I want you to stop there because I want you to go to where he points to. If your scriptures so read, then they cannot be broken. The scripture he's talking about is Psalm 82. Turn to the middle of the Bible. Psalm 82. Midway in the Bible. Verse 5. Verse 5, read there.
they know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in the darkness, All the foundations of the earth are out of course.
Go on.
I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But ye shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes.
Thank you. Okay. Let's stop there.
G-O-D, code word. G-O-D is not God's name, put it that way. Generator, operator, destroyer is the codex inscriptus of these three letters given to the English-speaking Masons by one of your ancestors, Benjamin Banneker Bay, Big Ben, because before that they were using this concept. That's an old Bible. If you found one of those, you'd probably have to pay $200 or $300 for it. Dios, deity. G is the brain, generator. O is the soul, operator. D, the destroyer, is your sacral vertebrae where the cosmic fire comes up that destroys darkness, fear, disease, poverty, and sickness. That's what makes you God. And you're in the making of that from now on. There's no point where you reach this, because there's no point where infinity stops. That's your destiny. That's the journey. The Torah, the Tarot, the journey is into the nature of infinity. The most important concept in human culture is the revelation of this truth, not on a blackboard or in a book or in a classroom, inside.